We have absolutely all been there, or at the very least, dreaded being there. You're standing at the departure gate, luggage in hand. The boarding area is completely packed. People are kind of hovering anxiously around the desk. And then the intercom crackles to life. Yep, the airline oversold the flight. Welcome to this explainer, where today we are unpacking exactly how to handle this high-stakes scenario. We're diving deep into uçuşta gönüllü zorunlu eleme tazminatra. That is, your rights regarding voluntary versus involuntary denied boarding compensation. By the end of this, you are going to know exactly how to protect your rights and, honestly, how to protect your wallet.
So imagine you're standing at that gate. The agent gets on the mic and asks for volunteers to give up their seats in exchange for a travel voucher. Your flight is overbooked. What do? Do you just rush the desk to claim the voucher? Or do you sit back, cross your fingers, and hope they don't call your name? Well, I want you to realize that how you answer this specific question and literally the exact words you use at that counter will determine whether you lose or gain hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars. This isn't just a minor travel hiccup, guys. It is a critical financial decision, and it's happening in real time.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, voluntary versus involuntary. Second, involuntary rights. Third, the art of negotiation. Fourth, cash versus voucher. And fifth, a passenger action plan. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, voluntary versus involuntary. So giving up your seat voluntarily is fundamentally different from being bumped against your will. It's basically a fork in the road. Voluntary denied boarding, that's a negotiated transaction. The airline is desperate for your seat, and frankly, you're under absolutely no obligation to help them out. Well, unless the price is right. The compensation package here is completely flexible, it's entirely negotiable, and there is zero regulatory formula that applies. On the flip side, involuntary denied boarding means they bump you against your will. The second this happens, mandatory government rules kick in. These rules require specific cash compensation, rebooking, and written notice. And as the sources point out, these aren't some negotiable minimums. They are strict, mandatory floors. Sometimes gates get super chaotic and the line between these two gets deliberately blurred, so knowing which category you fall into, that is your absolute most powerful tool. Moving on to Section 2, involuntary rights. Okay, so if you are bumped against your will from a U.S. departing flight, the Department of Transportation actually dictates exactly what you're owed. Here's how it works. If the airline gets you to your destination within 1 hour of your original time, you get zero. Bummer, I know. But a 1 to 2 hour delay? That means they owe you 200% of your one-way fare. And over 2 hours, that jumps to a massive 400% of your one-way fare. The DOT formula is super precise and verifiable, and calculating this correctly yourself is absolutely essential, mostly because gate agents can sometimes make mistakes in the heat of the moment. Now, the system works a bit differently under the EU's EC 261 regulation. Instead of looking at your ticket price, compensation is brilliantly fixed based strictly on flight distance. So if your flight is up to 1,500 kilometers, you're owed a flat 250 euros. Between 1,500 and 3,500 kilometers, it's 400 euros. And for flights over 3,500 kilometers, you get 600 euros. This applies to all flights departing from an EU airport or arriving at an EU airport on an EU-based airline. The amount is literally set by law. That means the airline simply cannot offer you less if you are involuntarily bumped. Period. $2,150. That is the maximum potential DOT payout an airline is required to pay you in cash if your delay is over 2 hours and your fare was high enough. Think about that for a second. This is not a flimsy travel credit that expires in 12 months. This is cold, hard cash. I really want to wake you up to the actual stakes here. A simple 5-minute conversation at the gate could literally be worth over $2,000. And over in Europe, the maximum is a flat 600 euros. Whether it's the DOT or the EU, we need to remember this isn't just boring legal jargon. It is real money legally owed to you when you're denied boarding through literally no fault of your own. All right, Section 3, the art of negotiation. So let's say you do decide to volunteer. You actually have a massive amount of leverage here. The gate agent is desperate to get that flight out on time, and the whole solicitation process is designed for speed. So do not just settle for their standard voucher. Negotiate. You can ask for specific cash amounts that totally exceed regulatory minimums. But don't stop there. According to the sources, you need to understand the complete compensation package available before you say yes. Ask for hotel accommodations if you have to wait overnight. Demand meal vouchers for your wait time. Ask for seat upgrades on your rebooked flight, or hey, even request lounge access to escape the crowds in those stale pretzels at the gate. Remember, there is no cap on what they can offer to volunteers. You are entirely free to negotiate.
Which brings us to Section 4,
cash versus voucher. The law is incredibly empowering here. Check this out. Airlines cannot unilaterally replace your right to financial compensation with travel vouchers without your explicit consent. The sources highlight a really major distinction here between care vouchers and compensation vouchers. Look, if an airline gives you a voucher for a meal or a hotel while you wait, definitely take it. That's just your right to basic welfare. But if they try to offer you a travel voucher instead of the cash you are legally owed for being bumped, you can absolutely say, no way. A travel voucher is never legally mandatory unless you voluntarily agree to it, and accepting one often waives your right to the cash. Let me tell you this fascinating real-world story documented in the sources about a Newark to LA flight. It perfectly illustrates literally everything we've just talked about. So, 2 passengers were involuntarily denied boarding on the exact same flight by the exact same gate agent. The first passenger simply accepted the agent's initial offer, which was a $400 travel voucher. She didn't ask if cash was an alternative, she didn't calculate her DOT rights, she just kind of assumed it was a fair deal. But the second passenger? He knew his rights. He confirmed his denial was involuntary, noted that his delay would be over 2 hours, and he cited the DOT formula of 400% of his one-way fare. He demanded cash. And the result? He walked away with $1,550 in cash, a rebooking in the exact same cabin, and lounge access during his wait. Same flight, same agent. That first passenger left over $1,000 on the table simply because she didn't know she could say no to the voucher. Let's wrap this up with Section 5, Passenger Action Plan. Here is your step-by-step checklist. Step 1, don't volunteer under pressure. Gate agents might try to create a time crunch to reduce your negotiating time, but never agree without understanding the full package. Step 2, ask for explicit classification. Have the agent verbally confirm if you're being bumped voluntarily or involuntarily. Step 3, demand cash. If it's involuntary, state the specific formula. Use the actual word cash and cite the DOT or EU rule. Saying cash triggers a specific legal process for them. And finally, step 4, get it in writing. Verbal promises basically evaporate the second shifts change. Get an email confirmation, a written statement of your rights, and a case number before you ever walk away from that gate. So we've covered the fork in the road between voluntary and involuntary bumping, the massive legal cash protections you have under both US and EU laws, and exactly how to sidestep that tricky travel voucher trap. You now have the exact knowledge that separates the passenger who accepts a $400 voucher from the one who secures $1,550 in cold, hard cash. So the final question is really up to you. The next time you find yourself at a chaotic departure gate and the intercom clicks on asking for volunteers, are you going to claim your rights on your next flight?